Hello and welcome to Drama Recaps. Today we will delve into the 2022 crime documentary film called The Tinder Swindler. Spoilers ahead. Based on a true story, Cece Lai, an Oslo-born woman currently residing in London, firmly believes in the concept of love. Despite several disappointments and heartaches, she remains undeterred in her quest for true affection. The anticipation of budding romance, the nervousness before every date, is a feeling she cherishes. For her, love is a dream born in her childhood, a fairy tale-like fantasy of waiting for a Prince Charming. Aware that such ideals may seem far-fetched, she nonetheless nurtures this aspiration. Her Tinder profile reflects her aspirations for a relationship beyond fleeting encounters. Cece Lai yearns for a long-term, committed relationship, preferably with a handsome man who loves cats. However, her quest proves challenging as she sifts through numerous profiles. Then she stumbles upon Simon's profile. His stylishly dressed photos coupled with a vast following catch her eye. His collection of images, ranging from business meetings, beach outings, parties, to playful encounters with animals, portray a well-rounded individual. Intrigued, Cece Lai swipes right, and to her delight, Simon responds promptly. He suggests they meet before he leaves London and directs her to his residence, the luxurious Four Seasons Hotel. Walking into the extravagant setting, Cece Lai feels somewhat misplaced. The elevator door opens to reveal Simon, looking every bit as dapper as his online photos. They soon embark on a conversation about their professions. Simon presents himself as the CEO of LLD Diamonds, a significant entity in the global diamond and jewelry sector, a position he attributes to his billionaire father. Simon quickly shifts gears, sharing personal details about his toddler daughter and his single parenting status. Simon clarifies that his nomadic lifestyle often denies him the pleasure of having a steady partner, and he's hoping to find someone who can adapt to and embrace his way of living. Intriguingly, he invites Cece Lai to accompany him on his private jet to Bulgaria, expressing a keen interest in getting to know her better. The proposition stirs a conflict within her. Declining would seem foolish, she thinks, potentially leading to regret. Simon arranges for a driver to take her home to collect her belongings and passport for the impending journey. She steps outside to find a Rolls-Royce waiting, an incredulous moment akin to a scene from a movie. It feels like an extravagant romantic adventure. Sharing this development with her friends via group chat, they are collectively astounded. Upon arrival at the airport, they are greeted by a cohort of staff, bodyguards, and drivers. Adding to the unusualness of this first date, Simon's ex, along with their toddler daughter, are also present. But the oddity doesn't faze Cece Lai. Inside the private jet, they are treated to champagne, caviar, and other experiences previously foreign to Cece Lai. Once landed, they are chauffeured to their hotel, where Simon's ex commends him for being a supportive father. This revelation is a poignant moment for Cece Lai. In the intimacy of the elevator, Simon sweeps her into a kiss, a moment that resonates with her childhood dream of a prince's perfect kiss. The romantic ambience persists, leading to a passionate night. But afterwards, Cece Lai notices scars on Simon's back. When asked about them, he narrates a tale of being unjustly imprisoned in a South African jail due to a betrayal and being mistreated for his Jewish identity. Moved by this revelation, Cece Lai perceives Simon as someone deserving of liberation from his burdens, leading her to feel a profound emotional connection with him. As she returns to London, she fears the fading of this promising relationship given Simon's busy life. Hoping to maintain their connection, she sends a text expressing her wish that he misses her. Simon quickly reciprocates, revealing his longing for her and a desire to maintain their relationship. Hence, their long-distance relationship begins, yet this does not mean. One day, in a grand gesture to showcase his affection, Simon surprises Cece Lai by delivering a massive bouquet of flowers to her doorstep. But the surprises don't end there. He later flies to Oslo on his private jet at 3 a.m. just to meet her. They meet at the Oslo Hotel Continental where Simon, expressing his deep affection for Cece Lai, asks her to be his girlfriend. This moment is nothing short of a dream come true for her. In an earlier conversation, Simon had hinted that if they were to be together, she must be privy to some sensitive details. He divulges that he is working on a high-stakes $70 million deal in an industry that is constantly under threat. Simon introduces Cece Lai to his bodyguard, Peter, and even shares alarming incidents like receiving a bullet in the mail, funeral flowers, and reports of break-ins at his home in Tel Aviv. He explains that his security team has advised him to stay away from London, which is no longer safe for him. Frightened yet understanding, Cece Lai agrees to stay put in London until the danger has passed, after which they could finally be together. After a few days without any word from Simon, one of Cecily's friends stumbles upon a news article about the Levy family. This leads Cece Lai to the realization that Simon comes from a distinguished and influential family with connections to high-profile politicians, including Vladimir Putin. This revelation intensifies her concern for Simon and amplifies her anxiety over his recent silence. Checking Tinder, Cece Lai is shocked to discover Simon's location has changed and his profile pictures have been updated. Simon, however, denies it and claims to have deleted his account. Meanwhile, Pernilla, a Swedish woman, is also on Tinder, seeking an ideal partner who is funny, smart, and impulsive. She has strategically set up her profile to reflect her professional and adventurous sides. As fate would have it, she too comes across Simon's profile. From her perspective, Simon seems to be an ideal match, a hardworking businessman with a love for travel. Pernilla is instantly drawn to Simon's dynamic persona that perfectly aligns with her own self-made character. She decides to swipe right. Simon quickly responds, explaining that he lives in Amsterdam but is working on a project in Stockholm. He suggests that they should meet and promptly arranges for Pernilla's flight from Stockholm to Amsterdam. Upon receiving a confirmation from Simon Levy with LLD Diamonds for the flight details, Pernilla decides to research LLD Diamonds. She is taken aback when she discovers Simon's high-profile status. On arrival in Amsterdam, Pernilla is greeted by a well-dressed Simon, and their date proceeds wonderfully. Simon proves to be easygoing and conversation flows effortlessly between them, as if they've known each other for years. They dine at a restaurant where Simon is well known, and they enjoy a wide variety of dishes from specially prepared caviar to sushi. On their way back, they stumble upon a jewelry museum, where Simon displays his extensive knowledge about diamond mines and the art of cutting diamonds. Pernilla is increasingly intrigued by Simon, but he insists that they remain just friends. Nevertheless, they stay in touch, communicating daily over WhatsApp. Simon becomes Pernilla's battery charger, as she fondly refers to him. On a particularly bad day for Pernilla, Simon flies over just to have coffee with her, a gesture that further endears him to her. Simultaneously, Simon is in daily contact with Cece Lai, who considers herself his girlfriend. She keeps him updated about her day-to-day activities by sharing photos and videos, cherishing the unique feelings this relationship imparts. One day, Simon suggests that Cece Lai move in with him. Thrilled, she readily agrees. While Simon is away on his travels, Cece Lai begins her search for a place to rent. Following Simon's advice, she sets her budget at up to $15,000 per month. After visiting various apartments, she finally selects the perfect place in the heart of the city. In the midst of Cecily's apartment hunt, she receives shocking photos from Simon showing injuries to both him and his bodyguard Peter. Simon explains that a group of people attacked them, but Peter intervened. The next morning, Simon contacts Cece Lai, explaining that due to security reasons, he can't use his credit cards as his enemies could track his spending. He requests Cece Lai to link her American Express account to his card so that he can use her card for 2 weeks. Being his girlfriend, Cece Lai doesn't hesitate and trusts him. She provides her Platinum American Express card, which Simon promptly maxes out. He promises to transfer the funds, but in the meantime, he requests Cece Lai to bring $25,000 in cash to Amsterdam, arguing that cash is untraceable. Although Cece Lai is uncertain about how to obtain such a large sum of cash, she quickly secures some quick loans and manages to deliver the cash to Simon. Soon, Simon's security team detects a breach. Simon deletes his Instagram for security reasons and advises Cece Lai to privatize her account to avoid being targeted by his enemies. Soon after, Peter calls Simon, informing him that due to the security breach, their location is compromised. Simon, complying with Peter's instructions, turns off all the apartment lights and leaves immediately. He later sends Cecily a geotag, letting her know that he is now in Stockholm. Meanwhile in Stockholm, Pernilla contacts Simon to find out his plans for the evening. He invites her to a party at a club full of girls. Not particularly interested in the party scene, Pernilla leaves after 10 minutes, planning to meet Simon the next day for breakfast. Despite the distance between them, Cecily continues to support Simon financially, receiving constant messages from him about card problems. Simon rapidly maxes out the card limit each time, forcing Cecily to call the bank repeatedly to have the block lifted. This pattern continues, with the card maxing out and Cecily having to intervene every few hours. In an attempt to ease this financial strain, Simon offers Cecily a job at LLD Diamonds, hoping this will convince the bank of her substantial income and therefore allow for a higher card limit. After providing her passport information to the company, Cecily receives a payslip amounting to $94,263 per month. She forwards this payslip to the bank, which successfully convinces them of her increased income and results in a raised credit limit. Meanwhile, Simon, along with Pernilla and his new Russian girlfriend, Paulina, enjoy themselves in Mykonos, Greece, staying at a luxury hotel with a room rate of $5,000 per night. Back in Oslo, Cecily eagerly anticipates Simon's visit where he was due to meet her family. However, Simon informs her that his security team doesn't allow him to leave his current location, disappointing Cecily. Despite this, Simon continues to request financial aid from Cecily, spending over $20,000 in just 3 days and asking Cecily to take out more loans. As Simon continues to travel with his girlfriend to France, Austria, Switzerland, and Italy, Cecily reluctantly borrows an additional $40,000. Simon asks for more money every 2 days, and Cecily continues to oblige, taking out one loan after another. The pressure mounts for Cecily, who has now borrowed more than $62,000 from various banks. Every time Cecily expresses concern about their financial situation, Simon reassures her that this is merely a favor she's doing for him, and he constantly affirms that she is the wife he has been looking for. In total, Cecily has loaned $250,000 for Simon's spending. Recalling those moments, Cecily breaks down in tears. She is exhausted and frustrated and finally confronts Simon, demanding her money back. Upon Simon's request, Cecily travels to Amsterdam to collect her check. When she meets Simon, he treats her coldly, acting like a different person entirely. She receives the check from Simon, which amounts to a value exceeding her current debt. Cecily returns to London and attempts to cash the check, but it doesn't go through. She anxiously checks her bank account daily to no avail. After 4 days, she calls the bank for assistance. The bank operator informs her that they will not cash the check but does not provide a reason. Upon hearing this, Cecily feels as if she can't breathe. She calls Simon for answers, but he merely insists that he's given her the money and fulfilled his deal. Distressed, Cecily contacts the American Express helpline. Sensing her distress, the operator assures her they'll come to her assistance. Cecily fears she might be arrested, but when the American Express staff hears her story and sees a picture of Simon, they exchange glances and recognize him. They inform Cecily that Simon Levy is one of many aliases he's been using. This revelation shatters Cecily. The person she fell in love with was a lie, and her experiences over the past months were part of an elaborate deception. She returns to her mother in Oslo and blocks Simon on all social media. When Simon realizes he's been blocked, he calls Cecily's mother's home in Oslo and threatens her. Cecily reports this incident to the Norwegian police, but they don't take her concerns seriously. Facing a mountain of debt, Cecily contacts the 9 banks from which she borrowed. Given the high interest rates on the loans, she fears the consequences. In her despair, she even contemplates crashing her car into a trailer to end her life. Meanwhile, Simon sends Pernilla a news article about his father being implicated in a major diamond smuggling case. The article mentions a woman from the office who committed suicide by jumping from the building. Simon claims that, as a result of the investigation, all his credit cards have been shut down. The next day, he sends Pernilla a picture of his injured bodyguard in an ambulance, explaining that one of his enemies attempted to stab him, but his bodyguard, Peter, intervened. Simon then asks Pernilla for a favor, requesting that she lend him $30,000. Pernilla, in good faith, transfers her entire savings intended for a house purchase to Simon. Meanwhile, Cecily, hospitalized in a psychiatric ward, is absorbed in her phone, uncovering more layers of deceit. She finds out that not only had Simon lied about his identity, but all the other people connected to him were fabrications as well: Peter, the bodyguard, the mother and child she'd come to know. Seeking more answers, Cecily writes a letter to American Express asking for more information about Simon Leviev. They advise her to Google Shimon Hayat for more details. She finds an article detailing a multimillionaire con artist who swindled women back in 2015. He defrauded 3 Finnish women, threatening them with tales of working in the weapons industry or being a Mossad agent. He'd been sentenced to 3 years in prison, but upon release, he resumed his criminal activities with a new plan. Realizing that this man had been manipulating women with the same plot continuously, Cecily decides to put an end to his fraudulent ways. She approaches the largest newspaper in Norway, VG, praying they'll take up the story. The details she provides are incredible, outlining a man who impersonates the son of a diamond billionaire, weaving a luxurious fairy tale to lure his victims into his web of deceit. Resolute in her decision, Cecily provides the reporters with intimate details of their relationship. She hands over 400 pages of chat transcripts from WhatsApp, exposing her thoughts, feelings, and all the personal photos and videos she exchanged with Simon. The journalists delve into the details of the messages, deducing that Shimon, also known as Simon, is a professional con artist. His primary method involves promising his victims that they will be his wife, gradually making them fall in love with him, instilling fear of his enemies, and then, after a month, starting to request money. No one would suspect that he couldn't pay them back. Cecily also sends the Finnish article to the magazine. The journalists discover that Simon Leviev and Shimon Hayat are the same person. The magazine's reporter, Natalie, gets in touch with authorities and manages to confirm the identities of the 3 Finnish victims mentioned in the article. Upon being shown the victims' photos, Cecily recognizes one of them as the mother of the child she had come to know. Despite being a victim herself and instrumental in Simon's imprisonment, this woman had maintained a relationship with him. Meanwhile, Natalie and her colleagues at VG magazine work on convincing the police that Shimon Hayat and Simon Leviev are the same person. They establish that both names belong to Israeli citizens and get in touch with an Israeli journalist, Yuri Blau. He manages to find Shimon's last known address in Tel Aviv. The VG journalists travel there, finding his real home, a stark contrast to the life he had portrayed on social media. They discover that the apartment belongs to his parents. Yuri questions Shimon's mother about her son's whereabouts, but she angrily asks them to leave, claiming she has had no contact with him since he turned 18. They take their investigation to the local police, who inform them that in 2017, Shimon had changed his name to Simon Leviev. This was the proof they needed. The police also reveal his extensive criminal record, indicating that even the Israeli authorities are looking for him. With this information, the journalists start their search for his current location. At the same time, Simon/Shimon requests more money from Pernilla. Although doubtful, she transfers an additional $10,000 to him, and Simon assures her he'll pay her back the following week. Despite owing Pernilla $40,000, he sends her a bank receipt for $100,000 the next week. Pernilla thanks him profusely but soon realizes the money hasn't arrived. Simon tells her that the money has left his bank and there's no need to worry. Over the following weeks, he convinces Pernilla to buy his flight tickets by claiming there is no issue with the money. When Pernilla messages him to say that the money hasn't arrived and she's in financial trouble, Simon promises to give her one of his watches, supposedly worth over $100,000. Meanwhile, Natalie is still trying to locate Shimon. She delves into Cecily's transaction details and the flight ticket sections. Upon examining the flight ticket details, they discover an unfamiliar name, Pernilla Sjöholm, alongside Simon and his team's names. They look her up on Facebook, find her profile, and inform her about Simon's scheme. The revelation nearly causes Pernilla to pass out. When she confronts Simon with screenshots of the messages, he dismisses it as the work of his enemies trying to gather information. The VG journalists travel to Stockholm to meet Pernilla. She eventually pieces everything together, realizing that Simon had been using money from Cecily to pay Pernilla, and Pernilla's money to pay others in an intricate scam where his name never appeared on any credit cards. The journalists and Pernilla now set out to find Simon. Pernilla books a flight to Munich to meet him, while Natalie and the rest of the team plan to secretly film their meeting to provide concrete evidence for the police. Simon is oblivious to the plot. Pernilla and Simon meet at the Mandarin Hotel, a place where everyone is familiar with Simon Leviev. The VG journalists discreetly follow them. Simon gives Pernilla his watch and they have a meal before leaving the restaurant. As the VG photographers start taking pictures of him, Simon notices them. He and Pernilla get into a car and speed away. Inside the car, Pernilla is terrified. She seizes the opportunity to get out of the car at a red traffic light. Upon inspection, the watch Simon had given her turns out to be a fake, yet another facet of Simon's web of deception. Pernilla then meets with the VG staff at the magazine office. She calls Simon, informing him that she knows the truth about him, allowing the journalists to record their conversation and Simon's threats. The following day, VG magazine publishes a detailed article about Simon, exposing him and his scam. The article garners mixed reactions. Some people harshly criticize the victims, labeling them as foolish gold diggers, while others support them. Yet the question is raised: would a gold digger go to the extent of taking loans to lend money to the man they are supposedly exploiting? The article about Simon's scam becomes a sensation on social media. His face is everywhere, bringing immense relief to Cecily. Now, when anyone Googles his name, they would know exactly who Simon Leviev is, potentially saving other women from his deception. Pernilla and Cecily lean on each other for support and begin sharing their harrowing story with as many media outlets as possible. Newspapers and journalists from around the world start reporting on the story, and talk shows in the US, Germany, Netherlands, and other countries interviewed the two women. Numerous victims from all over the world contact VG magazine with similar stories about Simon. In spite of all the information revealed about him, Simon remains free and on the run. His current girlfriend, Elaine Charlotte, a worker in the luxury fashion industry, has been in a relationship with him for 14 months. Like the other victims, Elaine experienced similar deceit, but the extended duration of their relationship has led to worse physical and mental tolls on her. Elaine is increasingly paranoid, constantly looking over her shoulder. To convince her of his enemy's existence, Simon had arranged for two men to follow and attack her a few months ago. In Amsterdam, Elaine comes across the article exposing Simon. She confronts him, but he dismisses Pernilla and Cecily's accounts as lies spun by his enemies. Regardless, Elaine has realized that she's been scammed. She decides to reclaim her money by selling Simon's expensive wardrobe, as Simon claims that the article has resulted in his credit cards being unusable. Simon creates a credit card under a new alias, David Sharon. Elaine discreetly takes a picture of the card and informs the police about Simon's new identity. Simon is currently in Prague. Elaine plans to visit him to pick up his clothes for sale, but she's terrified of being alone with him. Elaine and Simon meet, and Simon attempts to have plastic surgery to change his appearance. However, the doctor refuses, aware that such drastic measures are often sought by criminals. Simon pleads, but to no avail. Returning to his place, Elaine manages to pack his expensive clothing into 3 massive suitcases. She begins selling them, but she withholds the money from Simon. When he incessantly calls and texts asking for the money, Elaine lies, claiming she hasn't managed to sell anything yet. In truth, she's successfully selling off his clothes. While it doesn't cover the total money she lent Simon, it brings her a satisfying sense of revenge. On the last day she knows Simon is planning to leave for Greece, Elaine sends him a message. Seeing that her message hasn't been received, she surmises he must be on a flight. She checks for flights from Prague to Athens that align with the timing of her undelivered message and, connecting the dots, she sends a detailed email to the police, informing them that Simon Leviev, now going by the name David Sharon, is on that flight. Simon is finally apprehended by Interpol for traveling with a fake passport, and Elaine informs Cecilii and Pernilla of his arrest. However, despite being handed over to the Israeli judiciary, Simon serves only 5 months out of a 15-month sentence and now lives freely in Israel. Simon is estimated to have defrauded his victims of over $10 million. He continues to claim innocence on social media, promising his followers that he will soon reveal the truth, a truth that never seems to arrive. Many social networks have banned him, but he continues to enjoy his freedom, now with an Israeli girlfriend, seeming to laugh in the face of his victims. As for Cecilii, she continues her search for love on Tinder as this documentary comes to an end.